So, hi everyone. This is the submission video for my entry into the AWS AI Hackathon hosted on DevPost. Entries completed in November 2018. So the request of the hackathon was to use some of the AWS AI services, put them all together, make something bigger than the sum of the pieces. So my idea was to build an automated pipeline to capture some text from pictures, figure out the language, do some sentiment analysis, translate it if required. And the way I wanted to do this was to make it as frictionless as possible. So the idea was to use email as the front end. So it's easily available from every surface. There's no apps to install. There's nothing to configure for the user. It should be quick and easy to use. I also made a point of trying to make everything serverless. So I don't want to maintain servers. I'm of the opinion that you shouldn't maintain servers unless you really need to, but that's a side discussion. So let's have a quick look at what I built. So this is the workflow that I built. The idea was that the user could take a picture of a whiteboard, a billboard, something in the magazine that they liked the picture of and wanted to know what the text was all about. Could email it up to the service, which was handled by SES. And then SES would feed the S3 bucket, storing the raw email, and using the triggers on the create object in S3, we're then firing off a Lambda. And the Lambda is going to pass through the raw email looking for images. And if it finds an image in either JPEG or PNG format, because they're the only ones currently recognized by Amazon Recognition for the detect text action, then it's going to start firing all the things that are in the box. So, like I just mentioned, it's going to try and extract the text, basically do some OCR, pass through the text. Based on this return text, we're going to try and figure out the language. If the language is not English, we're going to provide a translation to English using Translate. And then as a last step, we're going to try and get the sentiment from the text using Amazon Comprehend. The sentiment analysis is only done if the original language is English or Spanish, because sometimes when you're using the Translate service, it's doing literal translation, and sometimes literal translation you lose a little bit of the meaning. So if you lose a little bit of the meaning to then do some sentiment analysis, the results are not always quite what expected. Then all these results are getting bundled over back to SES again, and SES is going to fire off an email to the original sender, hopefully with some useful information in it. Just a quick note here to some of the design. So everything's actually parceled up in one Lambda. Originally, I was thinking that I would try and decouple it, decouple each one of the steps that was in the box. So either use a couple of SQS queues and basically work through them, or a state machine or state model could also be an option. But after POCing everything and putting it all in one Lambda, the performance is a lot better than I expected. So the overhead of then decoupling it and trying to do the orchestration and making sure everything flows through the pipeline and everything gets cleaned up, the overhead was a little bit much. There wasn't really any added value to decoupling everything. So let's see if we can do a demo. So I've got a couple of images that I captured today. These are just taken on my phone from a magazine that was lying around. This one's about rescue helicopters. It's in German, so we should get it translated. This one's from an English magazine telling us how to be happier. It's always good. So let's see if we can find some sentiment about that. So basically all we're doing is just creating a couple of emails to the special email address. Let's just send this one over, and that's it. And then we'll do the other one just while we're here. That was in here. Fire this one off, and then yeah, so while we're waiting, the reason why we, oh, okay, and we'll talk about this later because it came back already. So let's compare this to what we were actually expecting. I'll make this a little bit smaller. So you can see over here on the right that it's recognized that I was the person that sent it. It stripped out some of the headers from the subject. And if we compare the text, it's yeah, it's pretty spot on. So we see that the detected language was also English, so also correct. Doesn't need to translate English to English, and the sentiment's pretty positive. So I think we can say that that's worked pretty well. One other thing to note here, mentions down the bottom, after each message is funneled through the pipeline that's been worked on and it's been returned to the user, everything's deleted. So no information is stored. There's nothing collected. Then we see as well that the other one has also come back. So let's check this guy, checking about the helicopter. So we can see here that it's gone through and stripped the headers again. That's also pretty good. Yeah, the translation is pretty spot on. And we even see here that it's some text that wasn't clearly visible. It doesn't belong to the main text. It's also found this and provided it for us. It's correctly identified the language. And it's given us a very literal translation. And again, we see that the sentiment hasn't been performed because it only supports English or Spanish, and with the literal translation, like we said, we don't do this. So that's a very, very quick demo about my solution. Thanks again to AWS and DevPost for organizing this. I had good fun learning some of these new things that we can't use in everyday work, unfortunately. Yeah, and good luck to everybody.